Hey everybody, Oli here for the weekly news recap for the 11th to 17th of September 2023. Sorry, we're getting started a little bit late. There was some stuff I still needed to do to prepare for today's video. Anyway, we should be good to go now, so let's get into it. This week, we actually had two showcases this week. First, we're going to start with the Nintendo Direct, which was on Wednesday, I think. Of this week. Wednesday? Thursday? When was the 14th? Wednesday. So, we're not going to go through all of these videos. We'll go through a couple of them. So, I'm going to start out with the Spotlight section. There's the next Splatoon 3 DLC coming out soon enough. Not really into Splatoon 3 or Splatoon in general myself. It's a, big multiplayer 4v4 thing. It just doesn't hold a whole lot of interest to me, so we're going to skip ahead on that one. We were shown a little bit more of Princess Peach Showtime. Let me just full screen this. Sorry, my internet is being kind of slow today. I think it's the weather. It's a bit pretty heavy rain at the moment. Anyway, Princess Peach Showtime was shown off at a previous Nintendo Direct. This is basically a return to like the Princess Peach games that we haven't seen. Games, I say, singular. That we haven't seen in a very, very long time. Why doesn't this mouse pointer go away? I was going to put it up here. So this looks like it's a side-scrolling platformer, not unlike a Mario type thing. The gist of it is Peach is invited to this theater to watch a show. Somebody comes in and basically takes over the place and changes all of the theaters into corrupt things, I guess. So you have these different biomes like you would in a typical Mario game, but in this case there's different theaters, so they all have different genres. You've got this one which is more of an adventure type thing. Peach has her own costume for this, where she's a swordsman or a duelist. But then there's further ones that are like food-based theater, and I guess cooking shows, presumably. Where Peach has a patissiere outfit. There's another one where she's a kung fu master. There's another one where she's something. There's a fourth one they showed. I don't remember what it is. But they did allude to that there would be more. So I'd say there's like a couple of levels of you doing, Swordsman Peach and then Patissiere Peach. Oh, Detective Peach. That was the fourth one. Or maybe there's mixing and matching in some shows. Maybe shows are both a kung fu detective show. Why not? Why can't we have that? This is why we can't have nice things. But that is the gist of Princess Peach Showtime. I don't think a release date was given. It was more like this is next year at some point. Oh no, never mind. March 22nd, 2024. So keep an eye out for that. F-Zero, right. So super hype when we saw, finally gonna do it. Jesus, the internet does not, I might not full screen Nintendo's video proprietary platform. It seems to fuck up my internet. Anyway, yeah, super hype when they said, yeah, F-Zero, but now it's back with a new twist. Oh, right, cool. Nah, it's a Battle Royale thing. I mean, okay, sure. I had seen like ROM hacks of this from 1990, maybe, of people doing this, like in browser kind of shit. Nowhere near to this level or this like high quality or what have you, but still that kind of thing. So it's 99 of you racing on the F-Zero tracks of your. The typical F-Zero issues is that you have an energy meter that you can use to either go faster or to survive, because every time you bump into another player or bump into the track boundaries or stuff like that, you lose energy. If you lose all of your energy, you explode. Some changes that were made for the Battle Royale, you can see here, there's this elevated path that if you have enough super spark meter or something, you can basically get a big jump ahead of everybody else. Colorways, so you can actually find out which of your cars is actually, which one are you, kind of thing. I did see some pretty funny stuff. So there are some really interesting skips in F-Zero. Some intended, some very much not intended. and it looks like they have brought back this. I think it was added when not Switch. I think it was added when F-Zero was added to one of the online shops. But there's this skip you can make in one of the tracks where you basically skip like half of the track, more or less. You just take off at a weird angle, jump off the track, and you end up way on the other side. But it was added later, as I believe when the game was made available online at some point, that you just get picked up and put back where you were. And in the case of this game like this, that pretty much puts you in 99th place. So that's pretty funny. So, be careful what skips you're going for, because if they may not work out for you. Anyway, that's F-Zero 99. It is available right now, if you want to try it out, on Switch. Welcome to Rogueport. So what was that about? This is Paper Mario 10,000 Year Door. Not 10,000 Year Door, the 1,000 Year Door. 10,000 Year Door. Yeah, okay. Will I risk it? Will I risk going full screen? All right, we're okay. So the 1,000 Year Door is a GameCube Super Mario RPG kind of thing, but done in the Paper Mario style, where everybody is 2D, made of paper. They can fold in on themselves and make like origami versions of themselves and stuff like that. Again, this is a game that would have passed me by. I didn't own a console beyond the Super Nintendo or Super Famicom or the SNES. And then huge gap, and then I had a Switch. So I hadn't had a Nintendo console in between. So I am excited to play this because I've heard some very good things about the 1,000 Year Door. As well as Super Mario RPG, which I also had not played. Because I wasn't into JRPGs at the time when I had a SNES. I didn't get into JRPGs until Final Fantasy VII, which would have been PlayStation. So I would have missed Super Mario RPG, which is coming out later in the year. Paper Mario, the 1,000 Year Door is next year. Again, not sure if there's a release date. Yeah, it's just next year. Don't know when. Okay, so getting into the headlines, recovered the stolen Mini Mario. So this is a remaster of Mario vs. Donkey Kong. So we're not talking about like the original Donkey Kong game. Good shit, Nintendo. This is why you use YouTube and not Nintendo's proprietary video stuff. Let's try this again. Maybe I'll just avoid going full screen because this seems to fuck everything up. So yeah, this is a remaster of, I think, a GameCube game? Or no, not a GameCube. I think this was a DS title. Mario vs. Donkey Kong, I'm not sure. But it is not really a platform game, it's more of a puzzle game. So you have like, locked doors and there's a key somewhere in the area and you need to figure out how to get to the key. But you don't typically have Mario's normal abilities. As you can see, jumping on enemies doesn't kill them, kind of thing. He's nowhere near as fast as he usually is. It is very much a kind of puzzle. How do you solve this room kind of thing? What do you have to do to make this work? They give you an example here where there's this monkey toy. It has a tail. The tail can be used to swing from. So how can you get the monkey down to your level so that you can use it to swing from? It's that kind of thing. So don't really think of it as like a puzzle. Sorry, don't really think of it as like a typical Mario platformer game because it's not really like that. Although having said that, there are some platforming things. You can see there are like the backflip jump is a little bit higher than the regular jump, or the handstand jump is a bit higher than the regular jump, and that kind of thing. So I think that will be an interesting thing. It's a little different to your typical Mario game. Again, next year, some point, February, fairly early, February 16th. Save the Prince and the World is the Prince of Persia. We'll just go through the video, but there's nothing here new from the last time we saw it. So this is the Prince of Persia reboot again. How many times is this series going to be rebooted? A couple of them anyway. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. You are playing one of the prince's bodyguards. You're not actually playing the Prince of Persia. You are actually trying to rescue the Prince of Persia, but it has the kind of typical platforming elements that we've seen in other Prince of Persia games. It has the time powers that were brought in with Sands of Time. I'm not sure if it has the rewind mechanic, but it certainly has time-based combat mechanics, like freezing enemies or speed yourself up or slow them down and that kind of thing. It looks good. I'm really intrigued. I would have preferred like a full, 3D adventure style like Sands of Time, but Sands of Time is there. I can always go back to it, so why not try something different? I believe this is January at some point. End of January. Okay. Chase Your Passions was like a trio of a couple of different games shown off. So Dave the Diver is coming to Switch. Dave the Diver is a indie darling at the moment. As a diving game where you kind of go fishing, catch fish, diving down seems a bit... You're not even going like the fishing rod angle. I'm just going to go in and get the fish. It's faster. I'm just going to go in and get it. Wargroove is a tactics game. It's very kind of colorful. Doesn't take itself too seriously kind of thing. And Eastward Octopia is kind of an interesting one. Is there a video for Eastward? Hang on. Yeah, okay, that works. Eastward Octopia. So the Eastward game is a kind of top-down adventure title. You are playing this guy who finds a young girl buried in the mines for some reason. He takes her out and kind of becomes her surrogate father kind of thing. And it's sort of these two people growing together as they move east. Hence Eastward. Eastward Octopia is a little bit different in that it's sort of like a side story kind of thing. It's kind of like a what if. The two characters decided to settle down somewhere. Instead of continuing to move east, they decided to settle down in this village. And it becomes a kind of Stardew Valley type thing where you get to know the people. There's recurring characters from the main game. Again, a sort of a what if thing, that if they like move with you. So yeah, it's kind of like a return to the game series, different genre, but it's also bringing like the characters you might have grown to like from the original game. And just doing different things with them. So that'll be interesting. We did play Eastward, the OG, on the channel previously. You can find video for that if you want over on YouTube. I still need to finish it because it's a really good game. It's really well written, and I do want to finish it, but I just do not have the fucking time. But I think I need to make time for it. Anyway, let's go back. Okay, so this was kind of just a reminder that Super Mario RPG, the remaster/remake, is out soon. I forget the exact release date. I think it's October. No, November 17th. Okay, cool. Thought it was October. Never mind. But yeah, that's out soon. Excited to play it. Okay, so this was kind of a weird one. So this is Another Code, and this is technically this is Another Code remastered. Recollection. It's actually both the Another Code games. They were never released outside of Japan. They're DS titles that are sort of a detective type thing. This is the first I've ever heard of them, to be honest, so I'm just regurgitating what I heard from the trailer and what I've seen from some of the previews and that kind of thing. But I believe the idea is you're kind of looking for your father, who's been missing for a while, kind of thing. And the first game, I'm not sure how it ends, but there is a sequel to it. A lot of it is just puzzle mechanics, trying to fix this bridge with your DS, so it's using the stylus and the gyro controls and what have you. So how it's going to work on the Switch is not clear. Will this be like a touch control? So I imagine they would implement touch controls to try to emulate the DS as much as possible. But again, how is it going to work with not touch controls, with like the Joy-Cons or the Pro Controller or that kind of thing? Anyway, the Another Code Recollection is both Another Code games. It's Another Code 1 and 2, and it is out near the end of January of next year. A new saga begins. So a new saga game, Saga Emerald Beyond. We've been getting a good few remasters of the Saga series recently, but it's been a while since there's been a new Saga game. So if you're not familiar, the Saga games were JRPGs from Square Enix. I think they came out in around the SNES is when they started. They're a bit more action-focused than the typical JRPG you might imagine would have been turn-based kind of thing. The Saga games typically have you follow one character at a time, but they have multiple protagonists. So you would play like one character, play through their story, play another character, play through their story, and the stories would all sort of merge. You know, the characters would have crossovers and that kind of thing. So Emerald Beyond seems like it's just going to ape that. There's some interesting character types. One of them I recall, though, is that this songstress who's had both her voice and body stolen, and now she's been placed in the body of a mech, which is what you can see there. I don't know, it's pretty funny. Anyway. Embark on Lara Croft's original adventures in one daring collection. So yeah, this was kind of a bit of a surprise. Tomb Raiders 1 to 3 have been remastered, so everything is smooth now. R.I.P. Lara's pointy bra, I guess. Everything looks kind of smooth and kind of weird, I'm gonna be honest. It looks kind of weird with everything being all smooth and strange looking. But yeah, if you've never gotten around to playing Tomb Raiders 1 to 3, or just can't contend with its grid-based, somewhat tank controls these days, you know, you might enjoy this remaster. It might be a bit easier on your brain. It's not clear if this is just a visual refresh, and if the game itself still plays much the same, i.e. weird tank controls, grid movement kind of stuff, or have they modernized the controls, what have you. We don't know yet, but that is out next year, February. Soon enough. Second Bolt of Brilliance is again here to just remind you that Detective Pikachu Returns is a thing and is out soon. Again, I think it's October. Yes, start of October. This game's a real toot, or a hoot. Yeah, Trombone Champ, the meme game. It's coming to Switch. It kind of feels like this is the platform it belongs on, you know? Like, this is the obvious way that you should play Trombone Champ. Because, you know, it's just the Joy-Cons. You just hold the Joy-Con up and, you know, like you're playing the trombone. Like, of course it should work on motion controls. If anything, it's probably easier on motion controls. So there's going to be two different ways to play it. You can play it as, you know, as a trombone, if that's what you feel like. But you can also play it with the IR camera that's on, I think, the right Joy-Con, and play it like a theremin instead, if you prefer to do it that way. I don't know why, but you can, if you feel like it. I think that's out pretty soon, actually. It's like next week or something. Oh, it's today. It's already out. Okay, I knew it was like, this is soon, but when is it? Battle your way to victory. Alright, so that's Horizon Chase 2, which is a racing game, and Super Crazy Rhythm Castle is a rhythm-based game. And then Spy Cross Anya is kind of out of nowhere. So this is Spy X Family, Spy Cross Family game that I don't think anybody knew was a thing, but it doesn't look like the trailer's here yet. I think it's just a series of mini-games where you're playing Anya, and she has like a summer project to do or something, and she's made her family the summer project, so it's just kind of reliving moments from the anime or the manga with the different characters. Fun. 2024, next year at some point, so I guess we'll learn something more about it as it gets closer to its release date. Go backwards, please. No? Don't want to? Okay. That was weird. Embark on a royal adventure. Okay, so Vanillaware's next game. Vanillaware are the people responsible for 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim, as well as a bunch of other visual novel type games. Unicorn... What was it? Unicorn Overlord is the name of the game. It's a terrible name. It's continuing Vanillaware's pedigree of terrible names for games. But here we are. I think 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim is fine, actually, now that I think about it. So, Vanillaware, gorgeous hand-drawn art. Sprites. Unicorn Overlord is a sort of RTS strategy game, but then also has a bit of a Fire Emblem thing to it when you actually get into combat. So it's like small units, heroic units kind of thing. They have like special abilities that they can do on either side. I think if you played any Fire Emblem games, you probably have an idea how this plays out. The real appeal with Vanillaware games is their writing and their art. isn't always necessarily the gameplay. Sometimes it's good. Aegis Rim's gameplay is kind of whatever, but the story is amazing. That'll be on Fully Fables at some point. I need to get around to it. Anyway, that's Unicorn Overlord. I don't remember its release date. Felt like it was far away. Yeah, March next year. Okay. Luigi ain't afraid of no goats. Actually, he is. Luigi's Mansion 2, again, reminding you that it's out soon enough. So this is a remaster of... It's a remaster of Dark Moon, or Luigi's Mansion 2, as it was known in other territories. I think this is out fairly soon. It was shown off very briefly in a previous Nintendo Direct, and I think it's next year. There's also 4-player multiplayer if you're into that kind of thing. I don't know how exactly that works. It sounds like chaos. I don't think it's the main game, though. I think it has its own separate... somewhere next year. Okay, even further away. Doesn't even have a proper release date yet. One Little Hero, One Humongous Problem. I'll be honest, I don't remember what this game is. It's a League of Legends thing. Okay. Sorry. I don't remember. I don't even remember what that is. WarioWare. WarioWare Move It. So the next WarioWare is going to be pretty much entirely motion control stuff. Don't know how I feel about that. So if you're not familiar with the WarioWare games, they are a collection of extremely fast, extremely dumb mini-games wrapped around a very basic story. But it's Wario, so it's always funny. And yeah, they're really dumb mini-games, as you can see. Most of the games are going to revolve around these particular forms or formations that you need to make, and the games will all use these kind of positions. You know, you might be doing multiple things with these positions. Who knows? And this is, in a lot of ways, this is just showcasing what the Switch Joy-Cons can do, kind of thing. Release date later this year, November of this year. Eiyuden Chronicles, 100 Heroes. So, Eiyuden Chronicles is a sort of spiritual successor / usurper of the Suikoden series. The Suikoden series of RPGs prided themselves on having hundreds of characters that would join your party. And you could effectively amass a huge army of characters that you could swap in and out. There are 3 main characters in 100 Heroes, as in you'll follow their story. But as the title of the game might suggest, there are 100 characters that can eventually join, and you'll get all of their side stories and stuff, all of their background things. They join your village gets bigger. You add more people. It gets horribly garish, I guess, for some reason. Again, art style really nice. We played the prequel game, Eiyuden Chronicles something, Uprising, I think. I'm not sure. Which is a very different kind of game. This is more of a turn-based JRPG kind of thing. Whereas the game we played was a side-scrolling brawler type. And I honestly forget the name of the game. But later in April of next year. Don't remember those. Sorry. Final wave, Mario Kart. Mario Kart 8 is getting its last wave of characters and race courses. So Pauline, Diddy Kong, I think, are being added. And I think there's one extra course. Not much for the very last one. Welcome to Fungal. Mungus gets a new map, which is a fungus jungle. Or a fungal, basically. And then they had a sizzle reel of a bunch of stuff showed off, which was just the stuff they showed off during the Switch Direct. So that's all of them, as well as some stuff about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Again, just to kind of remind you that they're out soon. And then one other thing they dropped during the Switch Direct, Nintendo, every time I call it a Switch Direct. The Nintendo Direct was that the Nintendo Museum will be opening soon in Kyoto. And they will be basically a museum for a bunch of Nintendo properties, more or less. So think of their theme park where it's all fun and interactive and what have you, and the museum is more like, here's how we got to where we are, kind of thing. Almost like an art gallery type. Anyway, that was one showcase this week where it had a bunch of stuff I'm really interested to play. And then we had Sony's State of Play, which continues its track record of being disappointing. Even though there's some really good stuff in it, but overall, it wasn't great. So coming into it, Sony did temper expectations by saying we're going to be focusing on third-party independent titles rather than first-party stuff. There was some first-party stuff in it, but obviously they can't do an entire State of Play around first-party titles because they don't have any anymore. They have Spider-Man, and that's it. That's all they're putting out for the rest of the year. So this year they put out Horizon and Spider-Man, and that's it. They have 20 studios under the Sony umbrella, and that's all they put out. Anyway, we won't turn this into a rant. Okay, so baby steps. Everybody look away. You don't know how old I am. You know what? I'm not even going to put in my actual birth date. We are 123 years old. It would let me do that. Okay, it doesn't care. Right, baby steps. I don't think you can full screen embeds on Sony. Never mind. Yes, you can. You look good for your age. Thanks, Lustig. Appreciate it. All right, so baby steps had it had a thing. It had a trailer, I guess. Vampire. I don't know. I mean, I do live in Ireland where we get usually very little sun, so I'm not saying I'm not a vampire. Anyway, Baby Steps you may have heard of. Baby Steps is a walking simulator, but not in the sort of pejorative way that is typically used for some games. This is literally, walking. Making walking hard, like QWOP. Like the way QWOP made running hard, Baby Steps makes walking hard. So yeah, you have independently control their legs, and you need to place them in, structurally sound positions and what have you. Yes, this will be streamer fodder more than anything else. I feel playing it, you'll just get pissed off with it eventually, like QWOP. Anyway, do people remember QWOP? Am I old? Am I out of touch? No. It's the children. Does this have a release date? Die. Summer of next year. Okay. Developer roundtable for Ghostbusters Rise of the Ghost Lord, and then a trailer for it. So the Ghostbusters Rise of the Ghost Lord is a VR 4-player multiplayer Left 4 Dead Ghostbusters kind of thing. It doesn't look great, honestly. So I can't say I'm super hyped for that. I am, however, super hyped for Resident Evil VR, because that looks incredible. So Resident Evil 4 VR mode has been teased for quite a while now, but it will be out later this year, allegedly. Hopefully it doesn't get delayed. It looks amazing. I kind of wish more studios would just take Capcom's approach and just not a shitty VR sub-mode, not a mini-game, not a shoehorned in thing, literally the entire game in VR. Just that's what we want. And it doesn't even have to be a new game. Go back to your old games and just make them. That's fine. I'd love to play Borderlands in VR or the original Doom in VR or anything like that. You don't have to make it as crazy impressive as Capcom have. I'd appreciate it, but you don't have to. It would look amazing. I can think of so many older games. And the kind of interesting thing about VR is if you try to go high fidelity, it won't look great, really. You will get this kind of disconnect. Whereas if you go for a lower fidelity art style, pixel art, for instance, or cartoonish, stuff like that, it's easier for your brain to accept for some reason. Uncanny Valley, I guess, but even more because it's VR. You can't escape it. There isn't the TV to surround you. Anyway, that was the VR mode for Resident Evil 4. And then they're also announcing Separate Ways DLC. In the original Resident Evil 4, there was a separate mode where you played as Ada Wong, and it was sort of a side story that went along with the main plot. It's like, what was Ada doing this whole time? That's the Separate Ways campaign, and they are bringing that to the Resident Evil 4 remake as well. And it's also, we're getting a better look at the remake universe, I guess, version of Albert Wesker, who has kind of only been teased up until this point. Albert Wesker is kind of the only good antagonist the series has had, and since he's left, they haven't really had any good, villains. Resident Evil 6 didn't have a great villain. 7's was like a kid, so who cares? And Resi 8, Mother Miranda, yeah, she's alright, I guess. Lady D was good. I'll give them that, but if you played the game, you'll know she doesn't really get her due, as far as I'm concerned. Wesker was a much better villain, and they just haven't had anyone to replace them. Anyway, Avatar Frontiers of Pandora is Avatar Far Cry. If you've played Far Cry and you like Far Cry, and you've always wanted to be a giant blue cat, then I guess you'll probably like Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. Ghost Runner 2 will continue to be a game series that I can only just look on from afar and not play myself, because it's too hard. It's too hard a game. I am not fast enough. I may have given up, my life for vampire longevity, but I didn't get the vampire reflexes and dexterity to go along with it. Ghost Runner is a first-person ninja parkour game, basically. You can think of it as like a first-person puzzle kind of thing. It's like you have a room of enemies. Enemies don't like you. You are very much outmatched. They can kill you in one hit, and you can kill them in one hit, to be fair. And it's basically, how do I get through this room, kill everybody, and not die in the fastest and as stylish way as possible? And that's Ghost Runner. And Ghost Runner 2 it has more of that, basically. More of that, and then also you have a cool motorbike. I'm not sure if the motorbike's in the trailer. The motorbike was in an earlier trailer. It may not be in this trailer. Doesn't look like it's in this trailer. There is a demo for the game, though, out today. If you want to try that out on PS... Well, obviously it's going to be on PS5 because this is a state of play. But I think the demo's on Xbox as well and PC. Rebirth Collection is just... There's more colors for the PlayStation stuff. Helldivers 2 is a 4-player multiplayer... Well, they call it horde mode, survival mode type thing, where you fight giant bugs. It has been delayed. This was another Sony published game, but not a Sony developed game, that I have to remind people. Helldivers is not a first party title. Sony are just publishing it. So it doesn't count when people say, no, they have 2 games coming out this year, not just the 1 game. Doesn't count. They're only the publisher, they're not the developer. Anyway, despite them saying that they were going to focus on third-party and independent things, they had to shoehorn in Spider-Man 2 because it's the only game they have for the rest of the year. Shows off more of it. It's out soon. We don't need to know any more than that. Tales of Arise, I won't go into it because I think this only appeals to me. Probably, and me only. Tales of Arise Beyond the Dawn is an expansion and continuation of the Tales of Arise story. The Tales series is a JRPG series that is more real-time combat, and it has a bit more of a feel of a fighting game than a turn-based combat game. I like the Tales series. Honkai Star Rail has a release date. It is out next month, mid next month, October at some point. What's the actual release date? October 11th. As I said when we streamed the State of Play itself, I can't necessarily condone that you play Honkai Star Rail or Genshin Impact or any of those kind of games. I will say this, they look really good. The characters are really fun. And the story, at least for Genshin Impact, I don't know about Honkai or Star Rail story. Genshin Impact story is pretty decent. However, minus all of those, it is a gacha game, which means random characters, loot boxes, monetization, microtransactions, all of that shit. I play it. I like it. I cannot say that you will like it or that you should play it because of that last thing with the monetization. So, up to you. Foam Stars. I don't think we should even bother talking about it because the game will be cancelled in 3 months. Almost certainly. But whatever. Foam Stars is Square Enix's Splatoon. Basically. 4v4 land grab game. Instead of Squid Ink, you have like bath foam, I guess. Bath bombs and what have you, but it's the same type of gameplay. And then the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth trailer that I both want to dissect this trailer and then also know literally nothing from it. So Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has been delayed. It won't be out this year. It'll be out early next year instead, in March. There's a bunch of stuff shown off in this trailer that has me thinking, what are they doing to this with the story? Because there's no way they're going to fit all of the events that I'm seeing in this trailer into one game. Because it's huge. And I was thinking that, and I think a couple of other people were thinking that, because out of an interview, the game's directors kind of said that, yeah, so we are like keeping to the same story of the original. We are changing some things. And one thing we are changing is the order that things happen in the story. So my guess is the weapons, these big giant kaiju creatures from the original game, they don't show up until very close to the end of the game. My guess is they're going to show up a lot earlier in this game. They're also showing off Cloud on a Segway for some reason, which is not in the main game. The Segway did not exist back in 1997. They also showed off the different chocobos, different species of chocobos that all have their own different abilities. Some can climb mountains, some can fly, some can swim, and so on. There's Midgarzolum, big snake thing. I'd say, yeah, it looks like they're just changing the order that things happen in. Some places we didn't see. Wutai isn't there. This is Yuffie's hometown. That wasn't shown off, and as the director said, yeah, it won't be in this game, it'll be in the next one. I don't understand what this shot is. Hang on, I need to go back, because this is still hilarious to me. This shot of Sephiroth mid-combat with Cloud is like gay romance kind of thing going on here, which, sure, okay. I think the idea is that scene in the main game, or in the original game, that's a flashback scene where Cloud is... It's like his first mission, and Sephiroth is this big, like, legendary mercenary soldier type thing. And Cloud is somewhat like looking up to him. He's a role model. He wants to be him, kind of thing. That's what I'm getting from it, and it's Cloud's interpretation of what was happening rather than what actually was happening, kind of thing. But anyway, maybe not. Who knows? Maybe there is going to be a gay romance. Zack is shown off. Zack apparently gets Cloud all the way into the city, which is not the story. The story is Zack dies outside the city, and Cloud has, we'll say, memory problems. At the time, he's undergoing Genova withdrawal symptoms, and he sort of supplants Zack's personality onto himself. And it's like almost a continuation that Zack never died. It's just Cloud takes over his life kind of thing, and that's a weird story for Final Fantasy VII. Whether they'll keep going with that, I don't know. Anyway, end of February 29th, 2024. And I think this is going to be the first 9th gen game that comes on 2 discs. It's gonna be big. Big fucking game. We're talking 150 gigs maybe. How big is a Blu-ray? How big is a Blu-ray? Like 80 gigs, something like that? Anyway, gonna be big. This has also sort of accelerated my plans for the Final Fantasy series playthrough. Basically, I had been planning to alternate with Resident Evil series playthrough, but there probably won't be a new Resident Evil for a while, excepting the VR mode and the Separate Ways DLC. We're probably not going to see like Code Veronica remake anytime soon, assuming it's even happening, or Resident Evil 9, if that's a thing, if that's even happening, and so on. Or the Resident Evil 5 remake that some people are suggesting. I'd say it's like they're probably a while off. I could probably pause Resident Evil for a bit and just focus on the Final Fantasy series and see if I can get all the way up to 7 remake before the end of February of next year. I doubt it, but it might. It could happen. If this channel just becomes the Final Fantasy channel, I could probably do it. But anyway, that was it for the state of play. So there wasn't a whole lot to show. Nothing really new first party from Sony. So we still don't know what all of their studios are working on. All we know is what Insomniac is doing, which is Spider-Man. And then they have Wolverine on the way. I did hear news that that project has ramped up now that Spider-Man is coming to an end. Or Spider-Man will be releasing soon. They'll keep a crew on to support it for patches and if there's any DLC planned for it. But I think most of the studio has moved over to Wolverine at this point. But that's Insomniac. We'll just go with like their big studios. So Guerrilla Games, Horizon. Horizon's over. Right, they released Horizon this year. So they're probably on a break for a bit. Previs on whatever their next project is. Maybe Horizon 3. I kind of hope it's not. Make something else. New IP, please. Do you need another Horizon? It feels like it would be too soon. I feel like they could make something else in between and then come back to it if they really want to do Horizon 3. I haven't played either of the Horizon games, so I don't know if the story is in a position where it can continue. But whatever. Sucker Punch, the Ghost of Tsushima guys, the Infamous series as well. Don't know what they're doing. It's assumed it's Ghost of Tsushima 2, which would make sense. On the other hand, the story has nowhere to go. It's not that it has nowhere to go, it just... Ghost of Tsushima, the game, is based on an actual historical event. Likely based, but it is actually has some history to it. Whereas I don't know where they'd go with a Ghost of Tsushima 2. They would probably have to go with a different protagonist and just a different story. Bluepoint, who typically do remasters and remakes, we don't know what they're doing. The rumor is always Bloodborne, that they're remastering and or remaking Bloodborne for PS5. I doubt it, to be honest, because that's always the rumor for it. Could be true, you know. The Final Fantasy VII remake was a rumor for years and years and years, and people were like, no, they're not doing that, and then they finally did it. So it could happen, but I kind of doubt it. Nix's is their PC port studio. They're the people who ported Horizon, God of War, Days Gone over to PC. We don't know what their next PC port is. I don't even know what it could be. Horizon 2, maybe? Is that already on PC? I think it is. I'm not sure. Because again, I don't follow Horizon, so I'm not sure if it is already on PC. Housemarque from Returnal. Housemarque typically don't do sequels, so I don't think we'll see a Returnal 2, but we might, because it did well, and Sony might, you know, force the issue. But I do think Housemarque are working on some kind of live service thing. Sony did acquire a couple of studios that haven't put out a game yet, and I think they're also working on live service things. Jade Raymond Studio is working on... Okay, I'm going to call it Porn Stars because I don't remember what the game is actually called. Something Stars, anyway. That's another live service extraction payday type game. They're working on that. Bungie are working on some live service game that isn't Destiny for Sony. There's one other studio that is also working on a live service thing, but I'm not sure what it is. Anyway, as you can tell, there's a lot of live service shit happening. And the market is kind of saturated with them already. People have picked their game. You know, they've picked their live service game. You know, if they happen to have enough time to put into more than one. You know, they're either playing Destiny all the time, or they're playing Final Fantasy XIV all the time, or they're playing insert other live service game all the time. They don't have space for a new game, and Sony are planning to launch like 5 of them. Like, not all 5 of them are going to be viable. And then there's going to be a period, like right now, where Sony have basically nothing to put out, or nothing that we're aware of. All we know is Wolverine, and that's at least 2 years away. Minimum, probably more. Because they kind of like, at least with Spider-Man 2, they still had Spider-Man 1. You know, they had the code base from that. They're just building on top of it. Wolverine, they're going to have to remake a lot of stuff. Anyway, I'm going to move on before this turns into a bigger Sony rant. Outside of the 2 showcases, there actually wasn't much else this week. The free Epic game this week is 911 Operator, which is a, as you might imagine, emergency response management type thing. You are a 911 emergency response person, and you are directing police, fire departments, ambulance service, that kind of thing, on where to go, asking people information to try to get as much out of them as you can. You know, their address, their location, how serious the issue is, so on, so forth. It appeals to some people. Melvin is trying to get me to play it, and I'm like, I don't want to. I don't like these kind of games. Anyway, I'm gonna move on. It's the middle of the month, which means the PlayStation Plus catalog will be being refreshed. I have not looked into this yet, but I have seen leaks, so I'm aware of a few of these games, but not all of them. So Nier Replicant is coming to PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium. Nier Replicant version 1.222 yada 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 yada, which you might know as the square root of 1.5, because Yoko Taro is weird. He's like, it's not quite a sequel, and it's more than like a 1.5 deal, so it's the square root of 1.5. I don't know why he does these things. Anyway, Nier Replicant is a adventure title where you play Nier. Your sister, Yona, has come under a disease. The world itself is falling apart. Humanity is winding down, as the game puts it. You know, our species is on the way out, basically. And you're just trying to eke out the last couple of years before humanity dies off completely. But there's shenanigans. There's a lot more to it than that. It is an extremely well-written, emotional story. The original game, so Nier Replicant version 1. Yada yada yada, is a remaster remake-ish kind of thing. The story is still pretty much identical. They haven't really changed much from it. So if you played the original and you're only playing it for the story hasn't changed. Still a very, very good story, but they haven't changed anything. What they have changed is the game mechanics. Not the game mechanics. They have changed the game engine. They've modernized the controls and a lot of like that. The original game is a very clunky brawler type thing, whereas this is a much smoother brawler game. In some ways, it's a little too smooth. Like, it can be a little bit too easy in some places. But it's a really good game. I really love the Nier series. Nier Automata is a favorite of mine. I have the tattoo of it on my arm. Nier Automata tattoo. Yeah, and I've played and platinum Nier Replicant. It's a very good game. Go play it. It's free if you have PlayStation Plus. 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim. I've been talking that game up at the beginning of the stream. Vanillaware have their new game coming out soon-ish. Unicorn Overlord. 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim is 13 people who somehow have been connected to the Aegises, which are these giant mechs, and they've been activated to protect humanity and the timeline, because there is time travel shenanigans also in 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim. It follows the story of these 13 people and how their lives are upended because they've been connected to the 13 Sentinels. It's very good. The story is incredible. The gameplay is a bit easy. You know, the mech on kaiju combat is not very difficult. But the story is very, very good. Civ 6, I don't think I need to say much about the Civilization series. Like, you know it, probably. And if you don't know it, you are very much aware of it. It's a very high-profile game series. No, it is nation management, empire management game. You can go down the road of diplomacy, you can go down the route of war, you can go down the route of war diplomacy if you feel like it. You can just be Gandhi and kill everybody. Star Ocean: The Divine Force is a remake of the original Star Ocean, which was a SNES JRPG. The remake is like a nicer version, prettier version of it, but from what I've heard, it doesn't play particularly well. But it's free, so you can always give it a shot. Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts 2 is the not good sniper game. This is the game. This is the game that doesn't have the X-ray zoom in when you blow off Hitler's testicles. That's not this game. That's the other game. That's Sniper Elite. This is the other one. But Sniper Elite, I think, is also on PlayStation Plus. Odin Sphere Left-Frizer? I don't know. That's German, and I don't know how to pronounce that. Odin Sphere is an anime brawler, side-scrolling thing. Lots of enemies, lots of combos. You have no idea what's going on the screen most of the time. Unpacking, if you haven't got around to playing Unpacking now, or by now, you really should do it now, because it's free. It's a very cathartic, just fun, cozy thing. It's not even really a puzzle game. Just the idea is you're unpacking stuff. And for most people, if you do that IRL, that sucks. It's like the worst part of moving. No, it's the second worst part of moving. The worst part is putting it all in the box. The second worst part is taking it all out of the box again. And the third worst part is moving all of it. Moving all your shit. Just get one place and stay there. And make it the best. Anyway, unpacking, that's kind of the deal. You do move to a lot of different places, and you're basically going through the life of this person whose stuff you're unpacking. And you can see how things change. The things that they kept, things they got rid of, the people they start living with, people they stop living with, that kind of stuff. You can kind of infer quite a lot about their life just from unpacking their stuff, which is really interesting. I was not expecting that level of storytelling just from unpacking and putting things in their, I'm going to say rightful place, but I'm sure I put stuff that shouldn't be where it was. But anyway, reasonably certain toilet roll is not meant to be in the kitchen. Whatever. Thought it was funny in the game, let me do it, so whatever. Planet Coaster Console Edition. Planet Coaster is a roller coaster tycoon. Spiritual successor type thing. Think of it as like a theme park management type thing. This War of Mine. This War of Mine is a base management thing where you are playing civilians in a war zone, and they can't escape the war zone. So they just sort of have to live while war is being waged around them, and the kind of things that come from that. People die. You send somebody out to get food or whatever, they don't come back. People die from diseases that, if it wasn't wartime, they could be cured. But because they're in war, and you don't have a doctor in the base or what have you. This War of Mine's a hard game to play. And not because the game is hard. The game is hard. But it's more like its subject matter is difficult. I would encourage people to give it a shot. But it mightn't be for everybody. Cloudpunk. We did a full playthrough of Cloudpunk as a fully Fable. I really liked it, but it probably doesn't make for a great stream. I think it makes for a good game, but maybe not for a good stream. Cloudpunk, you play Reyna, new to the city. She has taken a job with this pseudo-legal delivery company called Cloudpunk. They do deliveries, and sometimes they deliver things they shouldn't be delivering. And that's kind of it. It's a visual novel. It's just her new to the city, trying to, stay above the poverty line, stay above the starvation line kind of thing. And commentaries on dystopias and what have you. Contra Rogue Core. Contra is another bullets everywhere, you'll die in the first couple of seconds type thing, but it's multiplayer, so I guess it's got that going for it. Tales Noir is a point-and-click narrative adventure type thing where everyone is anthropomorphic creatures. Call of the Sea is a first-person puzzle walking sim type thing. This War of Mine is Polish. Of course, Listic. Why So, Lustig, tell me this. Why does Poland put out extremely depressing games? You've got This War of Mine, you've got, like, Frostpunk. Is Metro Polish as well? I feel like the Metro series is Polish, but I think it might be Ukrainian, I'm not sure. Why do I feel like all the Polish games are extremely depressing? We are all depressed. That makes sense. Makes sense. Okay. Call of the Sea is first-person Lovecraft stuff, but it is taken from the viewpoint of somebody who's kind of into it. It's like, yeah, I'm here for some Lovecraft shenanigans, sure. Not someone who's like, oh, the horrors, oh, my mental faculties are failing me, kind of thing. Also, we like to romanticize our history. Yeah. Your romance is very depressing. Anyway, Call of the Sea is first-person puzzles, but Lovecraft, but also you're kind of into it. It's a decent game. Some of the later puzzles are very, very puzzly. We'll just be like, huh? How was I supposed to know that? Kind of thing. Which kind of detracts from it a little bit. Nobody loves us. Join the club. Alright. West of Dead. I think West of Dead is like a twin-stick Western? Step into the boots of the dead man, William Mason. Voiced by Ron Perlman, nice. Grim and gritty world of purgatory in this fast-paced cover shooter. Which combines fluidity. Oh, it's twin-stick cover shooter. I'm not sure I like the sound of that. Call of the Sea we played, it was fun. It was fun. That's true, you did stream it. Star Ocean Integrity and Faithlessness is another Star Ocean game? I think it's a more recent Star Ocean game. Adventure City, Paw Patrol, right? Well, I mean, look, the kids need something, right? Anyway, move on. And then what's coming to PlayStation Premium? Lots of Star Oceans. Like the rest of the Star Ocean games, basically. Oh, sorry. Star Ocean First Departure Or is the remaster of the original game. The End of Time was the PS2 game, and The Last Hope, I think, was PS3, and then they remastered it for PS4? Oh, no. Last Hope was the original PlayStation as well. Lots of Star Oceans, anyway. Paw Patrol, the game. This is actually the second Paw Patrol game. There is one before this. And then Dragon's Crown Pro. Dragon's Crown Pro shares a lot in common with Odin Sphere. They're very similar type games. They're very well drawn, very pretty games. You'll have no idea what's going on the screen. There's just so much shit on the screen, you won't know what the fuck is going on. But anyway, that's your PlayStation Plus refresh. A lot of Star Ocean. A lot of love for Japan, which is funny because modern Sony seems to despise Japan. But for whatever reason, the PlayStation Plus catalog has a lot of Japanese developed games, unlike Civ. Add to the wish list. All the Paw Patrols. Lustig's channel becomes all Paw Patrol all the time. Okay, that's on the Sony and PlayStation side of things. What's happening on the Xbox and Game Pass side of things? So, Live with Gold. What's up with all the anime games? Because Sony won't make any first-party Japanese titles because they shuttered all of their Japanese studios, despite being a Japanese company who deliberately moved their headquarters to the US and now only focus on Western developers. Because they closed Japan studio and Team Asobo seem to be doing nothing. And it's very sad. It makes me very sad to think about it, and I'll just end up on a big rant. So anyway, moving on. Game Pass. So Xbox Live with Gold is gone. RIP. The last time it put out a game was last month and has now been replaced with Xbox Game Pass Core. So the way Game Pass Core works, it is a collection of games that will be added to over time. So it's like a mini Game Pass kind of thing. So you don't get access to like all of the games in Game Pass. You get like a curated selection of them for the exact same price as Xbox Live Gold. If you already have Xbox Live Gold, you're grandfathered into it, or grandmothered into it, grandparented into it, whatever. You don't have to change your subscription or pay extra money or anything like that. Oh, so it's worse. Yeah, kinda, sorta. Xbox Live Gold, I'm not sure if you got to keep the games that appeared on it. I never had it, so I don't know exactly. I assume it worked pretty much the exact same as PlayStation Plus. But yeah, Game Pass Core is not as good as the... Debatable. Maybe. I don't know. If you already had Xbox Live with Gold, yeah, it's worse. If you never had Xbox Live with Gold, it's maybe a little bit better. I don't know. Anyway, here are the games that are going to be on it initially, and then they'll be adding them every 3 months or something like that. They'll be adding extra games to it, and probably losing games as well, as Game Pass does, as subscription services tend to. But these are the games you'll be starting with. I'll just point out some of the good ones, and maybe also point out some of the really bad ones. Among Us. I'm sure everybody knows what Among Us is at this point, but it is a deception game. You're little beans in flight suits. One of you is a bad bean. He tries to murder all the other beans, and you don't want that to happen. That's it. That's Among Us. It's a lot of fun. Astroneer, I don't know what that is. Celeste is an excellent puzzle platform game. Yeah, play it. Good shit. Dead Cells, really good roguelike. It's a very fast-paced roguelike that not everybody likes. I like it. I'm not good at it, but I like it. Descenders, don't know what that is. Dishonored 2 is a really good immersive sim. It's a first-person assassin, I guess. First-person assassin game. Wasn't Among Us free on Steam or something? Yes, I think so. I think the idea is you have to pay for cosmetics and maybe maps. I think it was made free at one point. I'm not sure. Had it way before the boom started. I think it was made free on either Steam or Epic at one point. And then you had to pay for like maps and cosmetic items and that kind of thing. I'm not sure. Doom Eternal. It's not as good as the original reboot of Doom 2016. But it's still a very, very good game. Fable Anniversary. Fable's amazing. Really good adventure game. Fallout 4. Fallout 76. Terrible. Firewatch. It's a really good walking sim. Or a walkie-talkie simulator. There's not a whole lot of gameplay to it, but the story it tells and the interactions with the different characters are really good. Forza. If you like racing games, it's pretty good. Gang Beasts. If you have 3 other friends, it's amazing. If you don't, not so much. Gears. I love how they're calling the series Gears now instead of Gears of War. It's just Gears. Alright, anyway. Gears 5. If you like cover shooters, I guess. You might be into it. Golf with your friends? No. Fuck you. My friends cheat and they golf. I actually don't know what that game is. I assume it's golf. Anyway. Golf with your friends destroys friendships. That's probably why I don't know it. I don't have friends. That makes sense. Grounded is... Game Obsidian has been working on for like 8 years or something ridiculous. It is Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, basically, where you're the kids out in the garden getting attacked by enormous spiders and wasps and crows and trying to survive. So it's a survival game where you're tiny, tiny children in the garden, in the back room. I had friends before I played golf with friends. Is golf with your friends allegedly cooperative, like Overcooked? Overcooked isn't cooperative, it's fucking competitive. But anyway, it's who is... You're competing to see who's the worst in the kitchen, mostly. Halo 5 is Halo. I feel like you already know what that is. Halo Wars is a strategy version, but also Halo. Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice is... It's a good game, but it is hard to... It's hard to say what kind of genre it is. It's sort of a walking sim. But there is combat in it. It's just the combat isn't particularly taxing. Like, maybe put it this way. There is a section near-ish... Actually, I won't tell you where it is in the game. But there is a section in the game where you are meant to lose. Like, you're eventually meant to die. Or be beaten by enemies. And I did not know that when I played it the first time. So I just kept fighting. and I was fighting for like 30 minutes, maybe, and I was thinking, maybe I'm supposed to lose these fights. I'm not sure. It's like, that's how not particularly difficult the combat is. The parry is extremely easy to pull off. But again, it's not really going for that kind of game. It's meant to be like a story. Like it's meant to be a story game, but it's not meant to be a particularly taxing combat game. But anyway, pretty sure you're meant to lose that fight. Anyway, I did. I felt like after 30 minutes, all right, this is going on a bit long. I'm probably supposed to lose. You compete in golf with your friends, but you can knock each other. Ah, love it. Knock each other's balls. They're out. Right, that makes sense. Deliberately, I'm sure, is what most people do. You make you feel so stupid when you consider quitting. It's like, am I supposed to lose? My favorite ones is like, oh, I'm supposed to lose this fight. And then it's like game over, and you're like, oh. Okay, no, I'm shit. Okay, got it. I'm just bad at the game. Human Fall Flat is a silly physics shenanigans thing. Inside and Limbo are from the same developer. They're a side-scrolling puzzle platform. Limbo somewhat has like reignited the indie scene. Maybe it's like Limbo, Braid, and maybe Fez are somewhat attributed with like this resurgence of indie games. Not that they ever went anywhere, really. It's just that they kind of got a lot of press, and then the press started paying more attention to indie games. What I'm saying is Limbo is very good, and Inside is also very good. IMO, Limbo's better, but they're both very, very good games. Ori and the Will of the Wisps is a Metroidvania type thing where you are a tiny forest spirit thing, and things are trying to kill you, and you don't like that. Overcooked 2 is the end of relationships 2, I guess. Overcooked 2 is silly cooking shenanigans. The kitchen goes on fire, things get moved around, you get dropped in the ocean for some reason. Why the ocean is in your kitchen, who knows? It's just stupid shit, but you're competing against the clock, and you're not supposed to be competing against your partner, but you kind of are a little bit. Payday 2 is Payday. Payday is a 4-person multiplayer bank heist game where you can either do it right or you can do it fast. And doing it fast usually involves a lot of gunfire. I've never cursed so much in my life as I did playing Overcooked. Yep, it brings out the heated gamer moments for sure. Power Wash Simulator is Game of the Year for when any year it's ever mentioned. And I'm only somewhat joking about that. Power Wash Simulator should not be fun. You know, it's like Chore Simulator, the game. But it's so good. It's just so relaxing. I don't know why. I love it. And there's a Final Fantasy VII pack for it where you can clean the Final Fantasy VII vehicles and places. And that was great. Because there's all sorts of little Easter eggs in there. There's also a Tomb Raider one. Where you can do like Croft Manor and like the obstacle course and that kind of thing. It hits that very satisfying part of the brain. Yeah, it's just something about it is like clean. It's clean now. It was dirty once and now I've cleaned it. And the best part is it works properly. Anytime I've used the fucking power washer, there's still shit all over the place. Anytime you go to Hoover or Dust or whatever, there's still more dust here. You do it in a video game, it's gone. It's gone forever. You never have to do it again. It's the best. Psychonauts 2 is really good. I kind of want to say platform game, but there's a lot of other mechanics going on in it, but it's a very good platform game. Slay the Spire is a deck builder roguelike kind of thing. Not my cup of tea, but people who are into it are very into it. Spiritware Farewell Edition. If Melwyn was in the chat, she'd be singing its praises. And to be fair, it is a good game. Spiritfarer is sort of a base management game. But the idea is you are ferrying spirits, as you might imagine, to the afterlife, and you are helping them come to terms with how they died and their lives. You know, over time, you're talking to them and you're helping them just, get over the last whatever's keeping them here in purgatory. And it's a very emotional game. There are definitely some stories where you're like, yep, Didn't need that right now. Oh, okay. That hurts. Stardew Valley. I feel like I don't need to tell you what Stardew Valley is, but it's. I'm gonna be very basic and say it's a farming sim game, but it's like the best farming sim game you've probably ever played, other than literally Farming Simulator, I guess maybe. But I feel like that game is a bit too much. State of Decay is a zombie survival game. Whatever. State of Decay 1 I think was decent. State of Decay 2 I don't think people liked too much. I don't know. It's not my scene. Superliminal is a first-person puzzle game. It's very good. The mechanic or the gimmick for Superliminal is forced perspective. So if you're not familiar with what forced perspective is, think Lord of the Rings, and think that Elijah Wood is about the same height as Sam. No, that's not going to help. They're both hobbits. It's still not going to work. Elijah Wood is not actually that short. Let's put it that way. So think when, that scene where Frodo and Gandalf are sitting on the horse and carriage at the beginning, and he's bringing the fireworks into the Shire, and it looks like Frodo's tiny and Gandalf's huge, kind of thing. But no, obviously they're not. It's just the camera is set up in such a way that it looks like that. And they've set the scene in such a way that it looks like that. They've made one side of the carriage much bigger than the other, and whatever. That's forced perspective, basically. And the forced perspective mechanic in Superliminal revolves around that. It's like you picking up small objects and then holding them close to your face so that they look really big, and then dropping them into the scene, and now suddenly they're enormous. Or vice versa. It's that kind of thing. Or standing in a certain position so something looks like it's a bridge or a stairs, and then locking it in that place, and now it actually is a stairs. Like it's big. It's a bit mess with your head a little bit, but it's a good game. Elder Scrolls Online is a Elder Scrolls MMO. You may or may not like it. I don't know. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge is a throwback to the old Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles brawler games. Myself and Melvin did a full playthrough of the campaign recently. Unpacking, we just talked about over on PlayStation Plus catalog. Very good. And Vampire Survivors is a game where you do nothing and still win somehow. You walk and destroy things. If you have not heard of Vampire Survivors, it is a very casual reverse bullet hell type game where your character gets more and more powerful over time. You attack automatically. And it's like building up like a Diablo character that just has incredible powers and does like area of effect stuff. Everything goes off on a timer. You don't need to actually activate abilities or anything like that. All you got to do is move. Just move around so that enemies don't hit you. And you win eventually. Or you die immediately. Depending on, you might discover very soon that the build you were going for was very, very bad. But anyway, those are the games that will be on Xbox Game Pass Core at the beginning. But as I said, they do plan to refresh it every 3 months. We plan to update the Game Pass Core library. Oh, it's not every 3 months. It's 2 to 3 times a year. 2 to 3 times a year. Does that mean 2 or 3? People were going to be angry about that. And then what does update mean? Does that mean 1 extra game, 2 extra games, 5 extra games? Does update mean losing games? This is information people need. Anyway, those are some of the games you can play eventually. But what if you wanted to play something right now? Well, if you pay extra money, you can play Mortal Kombat 1 right now. So Mortal Kombat 1 is a sort of reboot of the series. Why is YouTube being weird? Anyway, Mortal Kombat 1 is a reboot of the series story, at least. Liu Kang has been tasked with creating a brand new universe after he won so many Mortal Kombats in a row or something, I don't know. Or Raiden has been corrupted and can't, or destroyed the universe or something. Anyway, whatever. Liu Kang is Raiden now, basically. And has changed things in the universe. So characters are sort of moved around, their alliances are a little bit different, or their position in the hierarchy might have changed and that kind of thing. Like Raiden effectively has Liu Kang's position now. Scorpion and Sub-Zero are literally brothers. Johnny Cage is still Johnny Cage though, so I guess there are like permanent fixed things in the universe. It's always going to be Johnny Cage. Pass seems stripped from bigger titles. Games are fun, but you're not getting anything like enormous. Starfield's not there, for instance, because obviously they want you to go for the big Game Pass, the proper big boy Game Pass payment rather than Game Pass Core. Like, I feel like Game Pass Core will eventually be shuttered. This is more of a holding pattern between Xbox Live Gold and Game Pass that they're trying to keep people in for now until they can move people over to Game Pass entirely, is what I feel they're going with. But anyway, that's Mortal Kombat 1. It's got a bunch of different modes. The story has been changed up, different characters, or sorry, the same characters, but they do different things now, or their storyline is a little bit different. An interesting mechanic they have added is cameos, which are effectively support characters from the original games. So they have like their original art and design and what have you. So you can have like the original Scorpion from Mortal Kombat 1 can jump in to help you, or Shao Kahn from Mortal Kombat 3 can randomly jump in to help you, and this kind of stuff. I'll be interested to see how it plays out in like tournaments and that kind of thing. Anyway, that's Mortal Kombat. Then we have Ad Infinitum, or Ad Infinitum. I don't know how you want to pronounce that. From Hecate. Ad Infinitum is a first-person horror type thing set somewhere within the Great War. I think it's after the Great War, but your character is having like nightmares, PTSD, and some of those nightmares are coming through. And yeah, there's this PTSD, I guess, simulator for the Great War. Yeah, I don't know. Reviews for it have been like mixed a little bit. Some people are really into the horror. Some people feel like it's a bit too much like Amnesia. I guess it depends if you're into these kind of games or not. If you're into these kind of instant kill monsters, which I'm not really, but I do like me some horror puzzle stuff. So, I don't know. We'll see, I guess. Surprised Bulls didn't come up with this one. I don't know. Hecate? I think Hecate are Swedish? I'm not sure, though, to be honest. Anyway, that's in Ad Infinitum. Eternites is anime dating sim, but also the world is ending. So the idea is this city is cut off from the rest of the world. Some terrifying, I don't think it's zombies exactly, but there's something like infecting people and making them go crazy kind of thing. You are sent to a bunker early in the game, so it's you and a couple of other people that are rescued from it, but the city is also in quarantine. But then there's also dating going on. You can romance the people you're with, and it is a like substantial part of the game. It's like half and half. There's this romance element to it, and then the other half is your standard combat RPG stuff. This is also done by a single developer, which is very impressive. It's like one guy. We played a little bit of this during Steam Next Fest during the summer. I really liked it, but I didn't actually get to finish the demo because there was something going on with the resolution on the Steam Deck, and I popped out to sort of see if I could fix it. And then when I popped back in, it restarted the demo, and I'm like, oh, I'm not doing that. It was like an hour of... I have to redo an entire hour, basically, but it's good. I enjoyed it, and the demo, there is a demo. There's also a PlayStation Plus trial if you qualify for that. You can play like the first 2 hours or something of the game. Gunbrella is, of course, a Devolver Digital game, because of course it is. Gunbrella, as you might imagine, you are a guy who has an umbrella that is also a gun. Or a gun that is also an umbrella, whatever way you want to look at it. And it has some really interesting mechanics, because the umbrella behaves like, shooting your gun while the umbrella is open kind of thing can like launch you forward. You can use the umbrella to glide and that kind of thing. I think this trailer is entirely like this kind of animation. I don't think it actually shows any. Oh no, it shows some gameplay. So you can see you've got these kind of things like shoot the gun backwards with the umbrella, it'll glide you forward. You can glide on top of the thing with the umbrella. If you shoot it while you're gliding, you'll launch straight down. You know, there's going to be some really weird shit going on with that. So I am interested to play that. Myth Force. Myth Force, I think, was in early access on Epic Games Store and has now released 1.0. Myth Force is a roguelike dungeon crawler thing, 4-player dungeon crawler, but the art style is reminiscent of like 80s, early 90s cartoons. What was the movie? Kingsman? Yeah. That's what Gunbrella reminds me of. I guess so. It has got a little bit of a James Bond thing to it. All right, yeah. Or the Penguin from Batman. But yeah, Myth Force has this sort of Saturday morning cartoon vibe to it from when I would have been watching Saturday morning cartoons. Or when I tell people I would have been watching. I still watch them. When I was a child, we'll say. So like 1800s when the cartoons hadn't been invented yet. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, it's got that really fun art style to it, but from what I've read from reviews, that's kind of all it's got going for it. Your mileage might vary on it, but it does seem like there aren't enough maps, or there aren't enough enemy types, or there's a lot of like reuse. And for a roguelike, that's not great. For a roguelike, you kind of want a lot of variety. Otherwise, things just get a bit too samey. But you know, I feel like this is kind of a game that they'll add maps over time, or they'll add enemy types over time, and that kind of thing. So we'll see how it turns out. This is a game made entirely for Melwen, Axolotl, or Axolotl, AK-Zolotl. So you're an Axolotl, but you also have an AK-47, or just guns in general. So it's a twin stick shooter, very colorful. It's got a lot of Enter the Gungeon going for it. It's a roguelike type thing. It doesn't take itself particularly seriously. There's also a little bit of base management in between your runs in the roguelike. You can raise other axolotls. And I think raising them gives you different benefits when they become adults. Stuff like that. Anyway, that's Axolotl. And then last game we're going to take a look at. This isn't a new game, so I do tend to just put new games at the start of the new releases. But I did want to highlight this remaster. So this is Baten Kaitos 1 and 2 HD remaster. This is another JRPG thing. But this probably wasn't played by a lot of people because it was a Dreamcast title, as far as I'm aware. And the Dreamcast didn't sell particularly well, which means not many people would have played the game. So this is your opportunity, if you wanted to play a game most people probably haven't. I've heard good things about Baten Kaitos 1. I haven't actually heard a whole lot about 2. I assume it's much the same. But I've heard good things about it, so I'd be interested to see how it plays out. And to be fair, I like these kind of games. So they are very much in my wheelhouse. Anyway. That's it for our new releases, but unfortunately that means it is now time to talk about the worst parts of video games, video game industry. So, we're going to start with the biggest shitstorm of the year, maybe? It could be. It could be the biggest shitstorm of the year. So, Unity. Boo. I'm not sure, are you booing industry bullshit or are you booing Unity? Both. Unity plan pricing and packaging updates. So what should have been a fairly innocuous press release for Unity to change their pricing structure, a lot of software, middling software, all of the above, tomatoes flying. Yeah, they changed their pricing structure. This has been updated and edited multiple times because of the big shitstorm it caused. So, to give you a background, the way Unity works currently, before this comes into practice, is you pay a subscription to use their software. And the subscription is stratified rather, in that you pay different prices depending on what your use case for Unity is. So if you're a solo dev, You pay at one price. If you're like a company, you pay at another. If you're going to be a pro Unity, which is like really big developers, so think like the people who make Genshin Impact, Team Cherry for Hollow Knight, you know, those kind of people would pay an even higher price for that kind of thing. But in doing so, you get like bonuses. You get like different pipeline things. You get like a dedicated team for customer service. You get rendering software that's not available to solo devs and stuff like that. There's like different perks and stuff that come with it. But in general, that's it. You pay your subscription and that's the end of it. There's no royalties tacked on top like Unreal does. Unreal's software is free to download, but you pay a royalty. If your game does well, you pay more, and so on. You have to reach a threshold. But in general, this is how it kind of how it was seen. It's that Unity had a fixed price. You knew what it was going to be every year. Doesn't change. You pay that subscription. You can factor it into your budget. Cool. Nice. Unreal, on the other hand, had a somewhat open-ended price because it was royalty-based and it was based on a percentage of your sales. If you sold well, that number goes up. If you don't sell that well, the number goes down. Budgeting for that, not as good, but you don't have to pay, you know, the lump sum for the subscription. So, you know, mix and match. Some people preferred one over the other. Unity have now decided, though, that on top of the subscription, they're now also going to charge a royalty fee. Here's the other issue with it. Not only are they double dipping, which is bad enough as it is, the royalty fee isn't based on sales. This royalty fee would be based on installs of the game. So the number of times your game has been installed, once it reaches a particular threshold, you now need to pay money. And at the lowest tier, it's 20 cents per install. Which doesn't seem like a lot of money, but that adds up over time. The higher tier subscriptions, it's less money for those installs, but typically they would have more installs. Right? So it's less money for each individual install, but they would have more installs typically because they'd be more popular games, you know? So you're talking like, you know, maybe 100,000 installs for like your solo dev hobbyist kind of thing, and like 1 million plus for your pro subscription guys. That's a lot of money that came out of nowhere. The other issue with these games and with this change is that it is retroactive. So you can't opt out of it. It isn't like a going forward kind of thing. And if you want to come along for the ride, cool, come with us. This is if you have ever launched a Unity game and it has been installed and it has now hit this threshold, you are now liable for money from the start of next year. That is a shit ton of money for some people. That has just out of nowhere dropped on their, you know, dropped onto their balance sheet. How's it going, Taquita Banana? How you getting on? So think of something like Genshin Impact, right? Has had millions of installs. And that is a free-to-play game. You know, you don't have to pay to download the game. Pay your service provider, I guess, for the bandwidth, but you don't have to pay, you know, Hoyoverse for that kind of thing. But that's millions. And they're not making any money out of those installs. And that's millions in the last however many years Genshin Impact has been running, that now suddenly they owe 10 cents per install. That's so much money. That's hundreds of thousands of dollars. Potentially millions of dollars, depending on how much that's been downloaded. Because this is a mobile game as well. That could be millions. The other issue with the installs is that they're not really tracking them. If I install a game on my PC, we'll say, and then I install the exact same game on my Steam Deck, that's 2 installs. So you have to pay twice, as far as Unity is concerned. I install a game on my PS5 and my PS4. Again, 2 installs. That counts. If I... Oh, I've heard of this. It's very stupid. It is very stupid, Taquita Banana. We'll get into why it's maybe not stupid for Unity's upper echelon C-suite people for stupid reasons, but they may not think it's very stupid. The multiple installs thing, means people can, you've paid for the game once and can install it as many times as you want, which is a good thing. Obviously, you would want to be able to do that. You want to be limiting people's installs. Nobody thinks that's a good idea. Well, okay, fine. Private equity shitheads probably would. You get 5 installs and that's it, and then you got to buy the game again. I've put that out into the universe now. I regret saying that. That's going to end up in some Wall Street shithead idea. Fuck. Luckily, I'm not that popular. Maybe it mightn't go too far. Anyway, this opens it up for abuse. It's like, I don't like your game, so I'm going to bankrupt you by just running a bot that installs and uninstalls and installs and uninstalls and installs and uninstalls the game over and over and over and over and over and over and over to rack up money. Is that going to be a lot of money? No. But if a lot of people run that bot, yes. There's abuse in the system. You won't make any money off that. Demos are typically free. If they're built in Unity, they count as an install. Money. Free-to-play games, as we've mentioned. itch.io games that are typically sold very cheap or for free. Again, that's money. If the game is part of Humble Bundle, sold for cheap. Again, counts as an install. If the game is on Game Pass, you get no money from it. You just get whatever Microsoft give you. Counts as an install. Then there's the issue of... Yeah, demos would cost money too. It's an install and it's running on Unity. It counts. So they've tried to clarify a bunch of these things to try to say that, no, charity bundles won't be involved in it. No, if you're a mobile free-to-play game, no, that won't be included, yada, yada, yada. They have no way of knowing what kind of game it is. They have no way of tagging it in such a way. They have no way of telling if this is the first time you've installed it or the second time you've installed it without adding a bunch of DRM telemetry to the game. And they can't retroactively do that. So they would have to estimate how many installs there have been. Who's estimating it? What is the algorithm you're using to estimate it? Can we inspect the algorithm you're using to estimate it? And the answer to all of that is, lol, no. It's like, here is our black box. The black box has told us you owe us $4 million. Give us $4 million. Who is going to agree to that? Literally nobody. There's also the issue of who is liable to pay that money. Is it the developer who has to pay that money? Is it the publisher who has to pay that money? Is it the service provider who has to pay that money? So let's say if you are an independent developer who independently publishes your game, you are liable. Obviously, you're the only person in that pipeline. However, if you are, say, a developer and Devolver Digital publishes your game, for instance, who has to pay that install money? Does the developer have to pay it? Does Devolver Digital have to pay it? If it's a first-party game, like Microsoft or Sony, are they going to have to pay it? Do you think they will? Do you think they're going to sue Unity into oblivion for that kind of thing? If it's on Game Pass, and you have zero control over installs or anything like that, do Microsoft have to pay now because it's on Game Pass? If you installed it on Steam, do Valve have to pay for it? If you installed it through the Epic Store, do Epic have to pay for it? There's no answer to that question because this is a stupidly thought out thing. There are all sorts of issues with this. I'm not going to get through all of them, but I have been through a bunch of different developers, subreddits and discords and stuff like that to like see what, gauge the temperature on it. And it is, ironically, Unity have managed to unite all developers against them. There are so many people who are like, fuck this, I'm moving on to something else. Devs react to the Unity's newly announced fee for game installs. Unity effectively not to be trusted is the general gist of it. We'll go through a couple of them, but there are some pretty big games and pretty big names that you probably know. Rust is built on Unity. Hollow Knight is built on Unity. Pokemon Go is built on Unity. Pokemon Go would have had millions of installs. Do you think Nintendo or the Pokemon Company are going to pay that? No. That's not going to happen. They're like, fuck off. Anyway, developers react. You've got Michael Foxney, who I think... No, he's not that developer. Anyway, it's like, make a game The game is freemium, free to play. Game makes 200k from in-app purchases after being installed 3 million times. You now owe Unity 20 cents per the 2.8 million installs. That's 560k, which means you have now 360k more than you actually made. How are you going to get that money from anybody? You're not going to be able to do that. Is that an option on PlayStation, Xbox too? Yeah, I mean, Genshin Impact is on PlayStation. Genshin Impact is a Unity game. Hollow Knight is on PlayStation. Hollow Knight is a Unity game. It's on Xbox as well. Pretty sure it's on Game Pass. It's like, they have not thought this through in any way whatsoever. Rust developer Gary Newman, Unity wants us to start paying them 200k a month, and then for doing the math, he would actually owe the game company about 400k per year. While this isn't much, here's some stuff I don't like. Unity can just start charging us a tax, just retroactively, unilaterally. They can do this unilaterally. They can charge whatever they want. You know, there was no consultation. They can add install tracking to the game. So the only way they'd be able to do it is they'd have to track that the game has been installed somehow, and then they have to trust that tracking. No, you didn't agree to that. That's not in the terms of service. Terms of service haven't been updated. We'll point out. There's also a bigger stink about the terms of service we'll get to in a minute. Unity did try to say that, no, this won't apply to a bunch of other things, etc., but there's nothing in the terms changes or anything like that that would suggest that it doesn't apply to free games. You know, they're trying to say that it won't, but there's nothing that suggests that. If a player deletes a game and reinstalls it, that's 2 installs, 2 charges. If they install on 2 devices, same. Unity says it would use fraud detection tools and allow developers to report possible instances of fraud to a compliance team. So if you get a massive bill from Unity, you'll just have to wait on the customer support line to dispute it. Yeah, that'll go well. Fuck's sake. This is the danger of modern games and game development cycles becoming exponentially more complicated, lengthy, and prone to immense dependency. When a decision like this gets announced and you're 3 years into a 5-year journey, you have little to no choice. You're stuck with a partner who may be actively working against your interests and who you increasingly cannot trust. So this is from Xavier Nelson, who's making the El Paso Everywhere game. If you're 5 years, what he's saying there basically is a lot of game studios would be in the middle of development right now of their game, right? Or they've just launched it, or they're in previs, but a lot of them will be in like mid-development. You know, the game takes, in their instance, 5 years to develop. You're 3 years in. You've built the game. Now you're polishing it, or adding maybe additional stuff that you thought of, or tweaking the game, or whatever. The point is, you cannot just scrap the whole thing and start over in Unreal. You don't have the money for it. You don't have the time for it. You're stuck with Unity, effectively, or the game never comes out. You're stuck there for however long and now it takes you to develop it. So do you now rush the development to get away from Unity as fast as possible, which will hinder the game? Game mightn't be as good, won't sell as well. Do you bite the bullet? Maybe you have to take out a huge fucking loan to pay off Unity now? Do you take them to court to try to recoup those losses or minimize the payments? Do you plead with your player base to buy the game and not install it? And then wait for you to make an Unreal version and just move them over to that? I'm not sure how that would work. Like, there is no good answer to that, basically. Because there is no easy, you know, import Unity project into Unreal and everything is fine. That doesn't happen. You know, import it into Godot, which is like a open source version. That doesn't happen. Like, this isn't gonna work. Aggro Crab, whose their next game is another Crab's Treasure, which is like a Crab Demon Souls thing. Again, based on Unity. They're too far into development at this point to stop. What's going to happen there? And then there's more and more and more of these. It goes on for quite a while. But the basic gist of it is, what the fuck? More or less. Unity's attempts to get away from the bad press on this, they basically said, if you pivot to our ad platform instead, you won't have to pay the fee. Meaning there's no ad platform for console PC games. This is only for mobile titles. If your mobile title previously had a, pay this money and you don't get any ads, you can't pivot to that now. Not only that, but you don't control the ads that come through on Unity. Or maybe you made a game that doesn't have ads. Genshin Impact doesn't have ads. It is a mobile game, but that can't pivot to something like that. It's not able for it. But anyway, as I was saying, this might seem like the stupidest idea they've ever had, but it mightn't be as stupid as you think, because Unity bosses sold stock ahead of the scummy dev fees announcement. Yeah, there's a bit of insider trading, because of course. So Unity stock prices took a pretty significant dip shortly after its contentious announcement. Several Unity executives sold thousands of shares of the company's stock in recent weeks. The Unity CEO himself, one of the highest paid bosses in gaming, sold 2,000 Unity shares just last week, and has sold up until now 50,000 shares this year, and has not bought any. Has not bought any shares at all. You might think like, oh, that was like at the beginning of the year. That's not as big a deal. They would have been talking about this pricing change for months, maybe years. Basically, ever since the game engine went public, 2020, there have been a series of really bad decisions. And they may or may not have been accompanied with stock selling as well. So this very much needs some investigating. Whether it'll actually happen, I don't know. It's not just the CEO, though. Several other Unity board members sold significant numbers of shares, including Unity's president of growth and the director of the board. That's not great. There's some scummy capitalist private equity strip mining going on in Unity. This is trying to pump as much money out of the company as they can, and then kill it. Anyway, we're going to move on from Unity and talk about a different company and their stock problems. Square Enix loses stock values, development process under fire. So this is news that Square Enix's stock program is down considerably since summer. And a lot of people have been attributing this to Final Fantasy 16. The thing is, Square Enix's stock has been plummeting long before Final Fantasy 16. If anything, Final Fantasy 16 brought it up a bit, as it sold decently well. Newer games from the publisher have shipped in questionable states and typically fail to hit sales targets. After suffering a sizable hit to its stock, Square Enix scrutiny over how it manages development of its properties. So it has lost close to $2 billion in value since its latest game shipped in June. That's an awful lot of money. That latest game being Final Fantasy 16. It is largely seen that Final Fantasy 14. This is kind of confusing. Which part? The Square Enix bit or the Unity bit? Anyway, it is largely seen that Final Fantasy 14 is propping up the company at this point, because it's kind of the only big success that they have. The Unity thing, I mean, it's not confusing if you think of it as they just want money and don't care about the product in any way whatsoever. So they're just going to milk money out of people as much as they can. They know there's going to be a bunch of developers who can't just stop developing on Unity right now. They need to see the end of their project. So they know they have them trapped. I imagine they won't contest, or they'll waive the fees for like the people they can't fight in court. You know, they won't fight Microsoft in court. They won't fight Sony in court, Nintendo, whoever. They won't fight Valve in court. They have too much money. But like solo dev, sure. Try to fight us in court. We have money. For now. And like, they have no issue with torpedoing the reputation ever since it went public. Like, Unity was fine-ish before 2020, and then it went public and the service has just gotten worse and worse and worse. This is why. This is, look up the term enshittification It's a term Cory Doctorow coined, and it's basically explains how every service that you like eventually becomes awful. It's like an exact roadmap for what happens. Anyway, with Square Enix, Final Fantasy XIV is kind of its only saving grace, but that itself also had to have a huge reboot when it launched initially. You may not recall, but when Final Fantasy XIV launched the first time, huge flop. Nobody really liked it. It was taken back into development, retooled for like 2 years or something, and then launched again, and is now like a massive success story. Give us your money or we will fight you. Basically, it's just bullying, strong arm tactics. Like, they know they have a captive audience. Final Fantasy 15 had a long-winded development cycle, yes. Just like 8 years in development or something like that. Final Fantasy 7 Remake has had high sales, and is also doing very well, but it exists alongside a lot of horrible microtransaction shit that Square Enix has just churned out and then swiftly shuttered in between. You've got like The First Soldier, you got like Babylon's Fall, that kind of stuff. So basically, they're kind of pointing out that, oh yes, there's Forspoken as well, which came out earlier this year that you've already forgotten about. Marvel's Avengers, famously, absolute shit. But basically what they've been saying is that their producers have too much freedom and not enough oversight. They essentially have their own little fiefdoms of development, and nobody really... There's no like cross company inspection of how the product is going. It's just they make their own thing and they ship it out and nobody else sees it, which is kind of nuts. Like, I get giving your director, your producer, some leeway, even a significant amount of leeway, but you still have to check that the work is being done, you know? You don't just go, yeah, it'll be fine. Which seems to be what they're doing. And Square Enix CEO Takashi Kiri has taken probably not the smartest move here, but they intend to whittle down the number of smaller titles and decrease outsourcing to focus on big budget games with higher potential to improve the company's profitability, which is the Sony playbook. Which I dislike immensely, because it means hardly any games come out. But anyway, I would feel like you should focus on smaller titles and just actually pay attention to them instead of just, whatever, it's fine. But anyway, Square Enix has made some very questionable decisions in the last few years. It's focusing on huge amounts of microtransaction. It's focusing on bloat for a lot of games, selling off Tomb Raider and Deus Ex for like a piddling amount of money, trying to pivot into NFT shit. It's got all the hallmarks of capitalist garbage associated with it, and it's extremely disappointing. But anyway, speaking of extremely disappointing business decisions, Ubisoft Montreal's mandatory return to office order reportedly leaves staff in turmoil. So Ubisoft Montreal are like the big Ubisoft studio. They're like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Far Cry 5, like they're big games, typically come out of there. It's reported that they've reneged on promises that 100% remote work would be possible and have forced all 4,000 of its workers back to the office as of this week, effectively. Ubisoft Montreal staff were repeatedly told they could remain 100% remote, leading many to make significant life decisions or accept jobs at the company based around these assurances. So they're like, you know, I'm gonna buy a house somewhere else away from Montreal because it's cheaper. And since I can do the job remote, it's not an issue. But now they want them to come back to the office. And now I need to commute like 5 hours one way and back every day. Like, fuck you, basically. 100% remote work will be possible depending on various criteria, reads an internal Ubisoft document seen earlier in the year. Criteria such as productivity, impact on the team, which is all very basic stuff. If you get your job done, who cares where you do it from, right? That's fine. But no, not anymore. All employees must return to the office, no exceptions. The company, or not the company, the workers' response to the announcement was almost all negative. Employees angry at the policy U-turn after buying a house or making other commitments based on the belief full-time home working would be possible. Ubisoft, the company, is reportedly encouraging all staff to speak to their managers in order to find a solution. There is a solution. You had it already. You had it in place already. Like, the solution is there. Fuck you. Talk to your manager. Find a solution. Eat shit. Anyway, speaking of... No, I had a segue, but then I didn't use it, and now it doesn't work now. Anyway, Ascended Studios lays off about 45% of its workforce. Reportedly, because Immortals of Avium did not do well. So Ascended Studios laid off about 45% of its workforce. The layoffs come 3 weeks after releasing the studio's very first game, Immortals of Avium. The layoffs have been attributed to low sales. Several more employees were dismissed. We are supporting those affected in every way we can, including comprehensive severance packages, yada, 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 yada. So, it's not great, obviously, to see layoffs. You don't like people losing their jobs. Hopefully, they will be able to move into something in the same area, and not too far away from them, or if they can do remote work and so on. But Immortals of Avium launched at $80. It's not a well-known IP. Was not particularly well marketed, IMO. How do you think you can get away with charging $80 for an unproven, unknown IP? Like, guys, you really shot yourself in the foot with that pricing. Now, it could be that they didn't have a choice. EA published it. It could be that EA pushed that price. I have a feeling that is the reason, but that is very much the problem. Like, I would have bought the game if it was $40. No problem. Possibly $50. I could be pushed for it. But $80? No, not happening. $80 is something that, like, I need to play right this second. You know? That's like Zelda. That's like Final Fantasy. That's like... not Immortals of Avium. Anyway. Alright, we'll finish with some stuff about what is the community up to. So, NBA 2K24 is already the second worst reviewed game on Steam. All behind Overwatch, as we learned last week. Or the week before, maybe. It ranks just behind Overwatch 2 in the list of worst reviewed games on Steam. So, why? We know why Overwatch 2 is the worst reviewed game, because this has been the only time people have actually been able to review Overwatch 2. Previously, it was on Blizzard.net, which doesn't have a review or a community comments section or anything like that. So that's a lot of, like, vitriol built up over time of people just airing their grievances. So that makes sense. But why was 2K23 so review bombed? Much of the backlash is due to this PC version being based on the PS4 and Xbox One versions of the game, and not current gen PS5 and Xbox Series X. Why? Why did you go with the lower version? The game is lacking and has seen little improvement since last year's edition. It's basically the exact same game, not unlike FIFA. Further, some features from the newer console versions are not on the PC. So there's some things that I don't understand, basketball, sports things. But apparently there's some cool things that are adapted for the PS5 and Xbox Series, but are not available on previous generation console stuff, and subsequently that means they're not available on PC, even though the PC, if anything, would be able to run these extremely well. Wanted to give 2K another chance after 2 years, and once again I am disappointed. There's only the current gen version available for PC. I don't always say current gen, it's previous gen, but whatever. I don't understand. The main menu and the textures of the packs still looks very cheap. And also, as you might imagine, it's a 2K game, which means Take-Two are in charge of it, which means every single microtransaction tactic you can think of is in full use here. So again, it's like a fully priced game that also has microtransactions in it, which is not a thing that should ever happen, ever. Anyway, we're gonna leave... I've lost my mouse. Mouse, come back, mouse! Alright, we'll leave Mortal Kombat to loop. Anyway, that was your news for the 11th to the 17th of September 2023. The The Nintendo Direct was very good. Lots of really cool games shown off. I am a little concerned that many of them were remakes and remasters. Mortal Kombat 1 is really fun. Oh, it's good to hear. I like to watch fighting games. I don't like to play fighting games because I don't have the time to put in to get good at them. I can't dedicate that kind of time. I'm glad to hear it's fun though. Yeah, my concern with the Nintendo Direct is that so many of those games were remakes or remasters and not a whole lot of like new games. Like we do have Super Mario Wonder later this year, which is like new and is doing some really interesting things. There's also a lot of Mario, like a shit ton of Mario in the Nintendo Direct. I'm trying as well. Well, good for you. Who's your main, Banana? Who's your main fighter? Yeah, a lot of Mario, and you could probably attribute that to like the success of the film. They're just gonna milk that as much as they can, all the way up until the sequel, and then probably milk it again. F-Zero 99 is a really interesting, fun concept. Not for me. I don't like multiplayer stuff, but yeah, I can see that being fun. State of Play was the stuff that was in it. A lot of it does actually appeal to me, but there was so little. And not only that, there was practically nothing from Sony's first party. Now, I know they said that they weren't going to focus on first party, but that is largely because they don't have anything to focus on. I wanted Johnny Cage, but I went with Smoke instead. Oh, nice. I think when I did play Mortal Kombat in somewhat serious, I was Sub-Zero as a main. But yeah, it's been a very long time since I played. We're talking Mortal Kombat 2, you know? Anyway. State of Play stuff. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, obviously. Incredible trailer that I both want to dissect every frame of and also not watch at all. The Resident Evil 4 VR mode looks amazing. I'm really excited to play that. And this Separate Ways DLC will hopefully be very good as well. Kenshi in MKX, nice. I like Kenshi. He's a fun character. Yeah, I know. I get where you come from. Yep. It's like people are trying to get me into Super Smash Bros. In work. I was like, yeah, I'm having fun. I'm playing it. I like the characters. And they're like, oh, do you want to do a round? I'm like, oh yeah, okay. Games just come out. How good could they be? Fuck's sake. It's like, oh yeah, I played the previous ones. I'm like a professional. Oh, cool. I don't think I hit him like once. Anyway, these are some pretty horrible fatalities. Nasty. Anyway, State of Play, Resi, good stuff. Ghost Runner 2 looks interesting. It's too fast for me, but it's an interesting looking game. Baby Steps, I feel like is streamer fodder, IMO. Only your friends can make you suffer as much in video games. New releases you can see there: Mortal Kombat. There's also Ad Infinitum, Eternites, Gunbrella, something else, Axolotl, Batten Kaitos 1 and 2, the remake, remaster. They all look really good. Kind of interested to play them. Make them play golf with friends and then never be friends. Golf with enemies. Golf with frenemies. Then over on the industry bullshit side, of course, is the Unity. Just complete fucking mess that is. It is causing a lot of stress for developers. It's probably putting a lot of their funding in turmoil. Will publishers, be asking now, what game engine are you using? Oh, you're using Unity? Sorry, don't want that game. That's a lot of pressure and stress to be putting on the developers just so they can make, just so they can have one extra yacht, is what it looks like. Knock off their balls. Some people pay extra for that kind of thing. Square Enix continuing to tank because they're making the wrong decisions at the top of the C-suite. IMO, they are once again going after short-term gains and causing long-term problems. But also they've had the kind of issue in that they're very much relying on the pedigree of Square Enix and not realizing that that has been in decline for a number of years now. Yeah, anyway, that's it from the news. I'm sure there was more, but it's been a long video as it is. We're going to quickly move over then to our channel update. So what's going on the channel next week? So we have our game roadmap for the second half of the year. Again, green, it's been featured on the channel. You can find it over on YouTube. The VOD, yellow, it is currently being featured. We're playing through it. And grey, it is on the way. That was not supposed to rhyme, but I might use that now going forward. Anyway, so last week we played a little Gator game. Playtonic were kind enough to give me a key for the game, and we played through about 2.5 hours of little Gator game. It is a very cute, very wholesome game where you are this little Gator guy. You are going around little adventures. It is very much just, summertime kids having fun type game. Ostensibly, you are meant to be like having so much fun that your big sister will be unable to contain herself and she'll start having fun with you too. And, put down her homework and, have fun with everybody else. But for the most part, it's just fun, stupid shit going on. I really liked it. I really liked the game. The VOD for that is over, as I said, on YouTube as well. Next week, Ghost Trick Phantom Detective we will probably finish. I might actually play it later today to finish it off, and make some room for Final Fantasy 2 at some point. But Ghost Trick Phantom Detective, we are coming rapidly to the end of the game. All the twists and turns, the story is all the threads are all starting to come together. Straight to violence. Ghost Trick isn't violent, really. I mean, you do die right at the start of the game, but you don't see him die. Ghost Trick is from the same creator from Ace Attorney, so it has the same level of comedy and, crazy, wacky characters and stuff like that. It's very good. It's a very good game. Moving on from that, Final Fantasy 16, we're still playing it, still going. It'll be like part 14 or 15 at this point, but I think we're getting close to the end of the game now. I don't think we'll finish it this week, but it probably might be October. We might have a different game, possibly. Anyway, we're working our way through Final Fantasy 16, and then joining the roster at some point, Final Fantasy 2. As I said, I'm going to try to accelerate our Final Fantasy series playthrough. So we've already played Final Fantasy 1, so we're going to work to add Final Fantasy 2 to the schedule and try to work our way through that, and then move on to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on. Try to get through them not as fast as possible, but I'm going to make a bit more time for them than I have been doing. So that will be soon, probably next week. And then Resident Evil 3 Nemesis might take a backseat to Final Fantasy 2. I'm not sure. If I have the time for it, I will try to get it in. I was planning to play it yesterday, but as you might have probably tell from today's video, and if you look down at the duration, there's a lot of stuff to get ready for today's video. So yeah, that took a minute. But that is the plan. Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, the original. The next Fully Plays Games a Bit game, or we play newly released games for a bit, will be After Us. After Us is a bit... It's part Journey, part Okami kind of thing. It's like you bringing nature and life back to this desolate world kind of thing. You're this little forest nymph, or sprite, or whatever. Post climate change, I guess, and some shenanigans are happening. But we'll look at that at some point. I'm not sure when. So Fully Plays Games a Bit list kind of looks like this. After Us is at the top, so whenever I get around to it, it'll be next. Then My Friendly Neighborhood is next up on a +5. Crime O'Clock is joining it on a +5. Bomber Cyberpunk Viewfinder and Spirit on the Mouse are all on +4s. Then Sprawl and Tenebris Pictura are on +2. Eternites and Daymare are on +1s. And there's a few that are on +0s, but they don't get added to that. So if you're not familiar with what this thing is, I do like a spinner random pick thing, and every time it comes up, they get a +1. And whatever is on the top of the list when it comes around to do the schedule is the one that gets picked. For Foley Fables, after Ghost Trick, Stasis is next up, but it's also very closely followed by Raincode. There's not much between them. And then after that, 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim, Norco or Oxenfree will be next up after that. So that could change going forward. But anyway, so the schedule for next week currently looks as follows. But I think I will play Ghost Trick later today, and we'll probably finish it. So I'll probably swap that out for Final Fantasy II. And then it will become... We'll become the Final Fantasy channel for a bit, I think. That's what's gonna happen. Anyway. That's it from me, though, for today. Thanks for sticking with me for a fairly long weekly news recap. The Unity shit and the 2 showcases obviously took up a good bit of time. But anyway, I'm gonna head off. Have a good rest of your day. Possibly see you later for Ghost Trick Phantom Detective. But if not, I should see you on Tuesday for Ghost Trick Phantom Detective, probably. Or Final Fantasy 2. We'll see. Anyway, I'm gonna head off. Have a good one.
Thank you.